Hi guys, Dustin here with another Star Trek The Official Starships collection from Eaglemoss. And today we are taking a look at the Cardassian Galor Class Starship. Yes indeed. Here's all the facts and specifications. It's a Galor Class Starship launched in the 24th century. A length of 371.88 meters. Max speed warp 9.6. Let me discuss something. First of all, I checked memory alpha, and it was observed to be warp 8. I'm not sure. The Galor Class warship. Here's are the specifications. Created by the Cardassian Union. Crew of 600 approximately, with 8 Spiral Wave Disruptors, torpedo launchers, and green energy heat dampening weapons. Now these ships, the Galor class, these ships are common to the Cardassian fleet in the latter half. Let me tell you something, these ships seized new territories by force and ran off anyone who opposed them, such as the Marquis. These ships were made up of the bulk of the Cardassian fleet, proving the constant deadly menace for the Federation. During the late 2360s, at least 3 of these 3 variants of the Galor class were known to exist. The Type 3 version was the most of the common line and one considered to be top of the line. The Cardassian fleet also included adapted variant to the Galor class known as the Keldan class. These ships were used by the Obsidian Order, the Cardassian Intelligence Agency. We'll take a look at the Keldan class when we get around to it. It'll take a while. More about it. When the Cardassians joined the Dominion, their forces placed under Vorta's controlling Galor ships fought alongside Jemadar battleships. You understand why I accidentally said a little spoiler in the last video in the Jemadar battle cruiser. Now these ships were technologically interior, but there are a considerable number of them combined Fleet 1 by main the battles in the early months of the Dominion War. The technology and firepower not matched for most Starfleet vessels. Take the USS Enterprise, for example. Enterprise D. This ship had actually trouble fending off an attack from the Traeger, one of the Cardassian names. When the Cardassians often deploy their Galor class vessels, groups of 3, with Gold Dukat attempting to retake Deep Space Nine after discovering the Bajoran wormhole, he was confident that 3 ships would be enough to overpower the station's meager defenses. Try that versus a fleet of Federation ships on Star Trek Online. The Galor classes were advanced, and they were the best. For the Cardassians, they were known to take out Federation ships like the USS Majestic right here, and another Miranda class variant starship. Here's a fast fact. From the data feed, Gold Dukat commanded a Galor Class vessel between 2369 and 2372. It was unclear if Dukat was in charge of the same ship during this period or if he utilized different examples of the same class. 2373, he was in command of the Prakesh when he used it to evacuate members of the Depa Council from the Cardassian Prime during the days of the Klingon-Cardassian War. En route to Deep Space Nine, the Prakesh was destroyed by 3 Klingon bird of preys. Now, 1 bird of prey will not be able to take on a Cardassian Galor class. 3, you're in trouble. Here's the plans of the ship. The ships of war. I always wonder actually this how I actually got its Egyptian like structure. Actually I have the main bridge up here. These are actually heat exchange vents. I've actually never seen those before. And the warp engines will have to be right here. Basically where the wings are. And the disruptor weapons are like right up here. You also actually have a third one down here in aft running height. I actually showed my mom this. She actually said it looks like a wasp. Because you basically have the head right here, the wings, and the stinger. Now these ships were held in high regard by Cardassians. They were named after the Galor, a masked shadow warrior from mythology. The shape of the ship itself closely mirrors symbolic representations of the Galor, which also uses a symbol of the Cardassian Union. Exotic materials used to make these vessels includes beryllium, dolomite, gulendide, rhodium, and uridium. And the colored beams, this is very highly debatable. In the Next Generation episode, The Wounded, its energy weapons beams were colored pink. In some subsequent episodes, and including Star Trek Online, the Galor class's weapons fire was colored amber. And I would say this, in Star Trek Online, it actually had like a yellowish kind of color. Allied with the Dominion, the Cardassian fleet went on offensive and forced Federation's allies to retreat. This is basically what these are. If I were a Federation ship, and if I were to known about the Federation of the Cardassians, it's over. Like, you can't even go against them. Now, here is one of the most cunning, intriguing, fascinating characters on Deep Space Nine. You may have heard of his name, Gul Dukat. He may appear as a complex character, he is essentially evil. This guy would actually be your equivalent to a Nazi war criminal in World War II. Steven never felt that Dukat's charm so powerful the audience forgot how dark his soul is. He actually, like all the best villains, like, Khan and all that, Dukat thought of himself as a hero, but Ira Stephen Bear always remind people that all his charms, Dukat has done terrible things that no one should forget. That's like saying about Adolf Hitler. I'm sorry if I bring this up to anybody. Adolf Hitler thought of himself as a hero, but we should be reminded of all the terrible things he'd done. Like mass murders, war. So he's basically the equivalent, minus the mustache. Dukat's actually an egotist who actually placed gratification above all else, and including his treatment of Bajoran women proved it. Dukat could do things that seemed heroic and noble, like saving his half-Bajoran daughter, Tora Ziyal or something, from a Marine labor camp. Selfless act cost him his family, disowned him, and he lost staying in the Cardassian society. But for Bear, Dukat was always motivated by his own ego. Here are names right here is always affected by his charm, even though when Dukat announced to his people the Cardassian that he made an alliance with Dominion, believing it would make him strong again, but he was gravely mistaken. So, here's more about him. I have no idea what goes on here. So here's more. Benjamin Sisko, was savior and missionary of the Bajoran people when Dukat became the emissary. And one time, Dukat underwent surgery to disguise himself as Bajoran in a final desperate attempt to regain power, but in the end, right here, towards the end, he actually got a fate he deserved and became trapped for all eternity with the Pariahs. He actually committed some truly heinous crimes. He oversaw the occupation of Bajor, and he lusted after that same power again. So basically, actually their version of hell. So, designing the Galor Class. Moving on. Galor Class is unusual. We've known major concepts, but this one is just shot out of the water. This is actually one of the most unique designs of a starship. So how did it got to this? Let's turn over to the Egyptians for inspiration. Designing the ship, not so easy, because this is unusual. Began design as when the Cardassians were introduced in Star Trek The Next Generation episode The Wounded. The script called for a new ship for this series' new aliens. The task is designing a starship from him fellow senior illustrator Rick Sternbach. So, turn into the Egyptians. And new direction, once his sketches of this ship was selected. That's actually hard to tell. Things were not actually, straightforward design with major revolution. The original design for a Galor Class Cardassian ship is just very bland, very pedestrian. And here's where the Egyptian play comes in. This is the early design. When Rick Sternbach produced a series of simple 3D renders of what would have possibly be a design direction, the first design, this one fell short. First couple of designs, this is the inspiration from an Egyptian ankh. It's spelled A-N-K-H. I don't know how you spell it, and I'm sorry if I disrespected any Egyptians out there. We knew Cardassian makeup actually involves head, little elongated oval on forehead, so why not make that interesting? they gotta play around with. And here's where a connection is made. The Cardassians being like Egyptian pharaohs. They have enslaved the Bajoran population to take over Bajor, so why not that works? Sternbach looked at the ankh symbol as a start for the shape of the ship. It eventually works out with little bits and pieces of bridge module, and the main body became a little bit streamlined. And the tailpiece grew out of the ankh shape, and once the basic building blocks were done right, details just fell right in. And right down to the tiny pyramids where the shipboard phase. What? Shipboard, sorry. So basically that's how these little disruptor phaser banks actually got their pyramid name. Was basically the Egyptian pyramids. One of the 7 wonders of the world. There's also something on the very top of the ship. Something that's a sacrificial altar. Complete with giant urns. It was all done in ship's hardware shapes. Idea was bring out some of the Egyptian feel to it. Like, the ship is actually a desert yellow kind of color with actually a cobalt blue accent and dark Chinese red. Very much like a Tutankhamun is sarcophagus. Departure from the familiar starship style. Just had a good time with it being steered away from a very straight look. And that's actually how the ship actually got its Egyptian feel to it. And that was actually a good fact. And this is a studio model of the Galor Class Starship. It actually featured a complex interior lighting system that illuminated the windows, engines, navigational deflector. The model was sold at an auction in 2006, the 40th anniversary of Star Trek, for $24,000. Unbelievable. I want that shit. This ship actually ended up appearing in 7 episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation, 14 episodes for Star Trek Deep Space Nine, 2 episodes for Voyager. Last 2 seasons Deep Space Nine, the Galor class actually appeared as a CGI. Physical model was sent to Visual Effects House Foundation Imaging as a reference for Brandon McDougall, who built the CGI model. Placed the physical model on a flatbed scanner, identical copy of the panel details, color that he could use for the base 3D texture, sure and accurate reproduction of the model. CG version of the Galor class made its debut in Deep Space Nine's episode Sacrifice the Angels, and its last appearance was the show's series finale, What You Leave Behind. This is the CG version. Very much different. And there's also a handful of other ships for the Cardassians, like a freighter, small scout ship, upgraded version of the Galor class, which is basically this one, for example. Built up running back along its back was known as the Kelvin class. Its rejected design for a Cardassian missile in the Voyager episode Dreadnought owed a depth to the design of the Galor class. Very much different. And here's on screen for appearances. First appeared in The Wounded, The Next Generation. Appeared in 3 Star Trek series. The first episode was... The key appearance was Ensign Ro. Ensign Ro Lawrence, assigned to the Enterprise, helped track down a suspected Bajoran terrorist named Orta. Upon finding Orta proclaims Ensign's Captain Picard suspect he was telling the truth. 2 Galor Class ships demand that the Enterprise stand aside so they can destroy the ship Orta is traveling on. It became clear the Cardassians have used Starfleet to find Orta for them. Picard must find a way to save Orta and preserve the fragile peace between the Federation and the Cardassians. There will be a link down in the description for that episode. And Way of the Warrior, Deep Space Nine. Klingons launched an attack on Cardassian. I'm convinced that the Dukat Council has been infiltrated by changelings. Forewarned on the invasion, Dukat attempts to lead the Council's safety aboard his Galor Class warship, which is basically the Prakish. They were intercepted by 3 Klingon vessels. Just before it was destroyed, the USS Defiant arrives and beams the occupants of the Prakish aboard, and then warps back to Deep Space Nine with the Klingon fleet in pursuit and ready to destroy the stations they failed and hand over the Cardassians. Actor Mark Alamo, who starred as Gul Dukat, also appeared as Gomesa in Star Trek Next Generation's episode The Wounded. Actually played several characters on Star Trek Next Generation, including the Ensign Ro in Lonely Among Us, Commander Tabak in The Neutral Zone, and 19th Century Gambler Richard LaRock in Time Zero. Jen Taylor, who is Jerry Taylor, an executive producer and writer for The Next Generation, wrote The Wounded. First episode featured the Cardassians. Also, she invented the name of the race. Makeup designer Michael Westmore said he got the idea of distinctive spoon mark on the forehead, which is actually seen right here, of Cardassians from an abstract painting of a woman with a spoon on her forehead he saw in an art gallery in Los Angeles. So the spoon ridge on the female Cardassians was given a blue tinge to help differentiate them from their male counterparts. If you actually watch Deep Space Nine, you will know about that. In the next issue, we are going to be taking a look at the USS Equinox, the Nova-class science vessel from Star Trek Voyager. And here's the back. I already jumped the gun on it and actually opened it up. So here's the ship. It actually does look much of a wasp. You have the stingers right here, the wings, and the head. And the blue little marks right here is actually the little pyramids. And you actually have another one back here. Basically where these are. You actually have a red deflector dish, not like the usual blue for the Federation. I like the touch they actually added the Cardassian symbol for here, and another one underneath. I like the model. It looks pretty cool. And I'll tell you what, Cardassians do love their ships. This was not one of my favorites when taking them on in Star Trek Online. They're actually a pain to take on. I don't know what because I know there's actually one ship that would actually spawn the photonic Galor Class ones. I think it's the Kelvin class, I believe. They would actually spawn these ships. Which have the head. The bridge is actually right here. And it actually has that desert yellow sand kind of color. The paint. I actually like it. It's pretty cool. Even though most of the die casting is heavy up front. And you just slide it in. definitely going to be a Galor Class Starship. I like the ship. Looks pretty cool. We'll take a look at the USS Equinox coming up next. So, my name is Dustin, and I will see you again for my next review.